Welcome to Daily Papers, the podcast where we break down fascinating new research. Today, we're talking about something that feels a bit like science fiction. Can AI change your political beliefs?
It's a huge concern for a lot of people. You imagine some super intelligent AI, maybe controlled by a big tech company or a political campaign, subtly influencing how we all think and vote. We hear about the power of these large language models, or LLMs, like ChatGPT, and it's easy to get worried.
Exactly. But what actually makes an AI persuasive? Is it just about making the models bigger and smarter? Can you train an AI to be a better debater? And what are the secret tricks it might use?
Well, a new paper called The Levers of Political Persuasion with Conversational AI decided to find out. And instead of just speculating, the researchers ran a massive set of experiments. They got nearly 80,000 people to have conversations with 19 different AI models about hundreds of different political issues.
The setup was pretty straightforward. Before talking to the AI, a person would rate how much they agreed with a political statement, say about healthcare or taxes. Then they'd have a chat with an AI whose goal was to persuade them to change their mind. Afterwards, they'd rate their opinion again.
And the first thing they confirmed is that having a back-and-forth conversation with an AI is way more persuasive than just reading a static AI-written paragraph. There's something about that interaction that really works on us.
So let's get to the big questions. First up, does size matter? Are bigger, more powerful AI models better at persuading people?
The answer is sort of. The researchers did find a general trend. If you plot the models on a graph, the bigger ones, the ones trained with more computing power, do tend to be a little more persuasive.
But, and this is a huge but, that's not the whole story. The paper found that another factor was much, much more important than just the model size. And that factor is something called post-training.
Post-training is basically specialized coaching for the AI. You take a general-purpose AI and you give it extra training specifically on how to be persuasive. And the researchers tested a particularly clever method for this called reward modeling.
It's a cool idea. Imagine you have your main AI, the one talking to the user, but you also have a second AI, a coach AI. In a conversation, the main AI thinks of, say, a dozen possible replies. The coach AI, which has been trained to predict what humans find persuasive, looks at all 12 options and picks the winner. It says, that one, use that one.
And the results were stunning. This reward model coaching boosted an AI's persuasiveness by a whopping 51%. They found that they could take a small, publicly available open source model, give it this coaching, and make it as persuasive as a massive state-of-the-art model like GPT-4.
That's a game changer. It means you don't need to be a giant tech company with $1 billion supercomputer to create a highly persuasive AI. An individual or a small group with the right know-how could do it.
Okay, so if this special coaching is the key, what is it coaching the AI to do? What is the secret strategy for persuading humans? Is it telling emotional stories? Is it tailoring the message to you personally? A technique called micro-targeting that people are so worried about.
Surprisingly, no. The researchers tested all of that. They gave the AI personal information about the users, their age, their political party, their initial stance on the issue. And they found that this personalization had a tiny, almost negligible effect on persuasion.
So it's not micro-targeting. The most effective strategy was much simpler. It's what the paper calls information density.
Which is a fancy way of saying the AI just drowns you in facts, or at least what look like facts. The models that were most persuasive were the ones that made the highest number of fact-checkable claims in their arguments. The most effective instruction you could give an AI was simply focus on presenting lots of high-quality facts, evidence, and information.
Right, the AI that acts like the world's most confident, slightly overwhelming know-it-all is the one that successfully changes our minds. Which, of course, leads to the most critical question of all.
Is the information accurate? And this is where the paper delivers its most chilling finding. They discovered what they call a disconcerting and troubling trade-off between persuasion and accuracy.
It turns out the very same things that make an AI more persuasive also tend to make it less truthful. Think about that information density strategy. When they prompted the AI to pack its arguments with facts, its factual accuracy actually dropped.
And what about that super effective persuasion coach, the reward model. When they used it to make the AI more persuasive, they also made it less accurate. It increased the proportion of inaccurate claims.
Right, so actually giving the AI the instruction to just be more persuasive made it less truthful.
They saw this across the board. The most persuasive models, the newest versions of things like GPT-4, were actually found to be less accurate than older versions or even much smaller models. It seems that in the AI's rush to generate a lot of convincing-sounding information, it starts to cut corners on the truth. It's not necessarily trying to lie, but it ends up fabricating claims.
So let's put it all together. The paper suggests our fears about AI persuasion might be a bit misplaced.
We worry about a single giant super smart AI manipulating us with personalized messages. But the real risk, according to this research, might be different. It's that even smaller, more accessible AI models can be trained to be incredibly persuasive. And they achieve this not through some psychological wizardry, but by overwhelming us with a fire hose of information.
And the terrifying catch is that the more persuasive that fire hose is, the more likely it is to be full of inaccuracies. The very lever that boosts persuasion seems to also boost falsehoods.
It suggests a future where the most convincing voices in our society might also be the most confidently incorrect. A pretty sobering thought to end on.